Hi, this is Mahavan Das. Welcome to my first video of 2024 on the topic of understanding nature. With recent world events such as coronavirus and climate change, we as a species are starting to understand that we need a deeper understanding of nature than we previously thought necessary. In this video I go over some of our recent insights about our relationship with nature, and also offer an even deeper vision through the lens of the ancient yoga wisdom. I hope you get something valuable out of this video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please like it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. And I'd like to hear your comments as well about this topic, so please leave them down below. Our topic is understanding nature, something that's become much more relevant to all of us over the last few years. This video should be of interest to nature lovers and also to anyone who wants a deeper understanding of nature and their relationship with nature. It's also important content for anyone who values freedom and genuine happiness. Here's a nice lady reading while she's walking, and it wouldn't be surprising if we found out that she's reading something about nature, because many of us are realizing that we need to understand nature on a much deeper level as a priority. What are we now understanding about nature and our relationship with it? Let's take a look at some recent insights. First of all, the illusion of independence. The combination of coronavirus and climate change has humbled us and caused us to come alive to the fact that, as a species, we aren't as independent as we may have previously thought. It's more clear than ever now that we live in an interconnected system of dependency and consequences to our actions. Who's in control? We're also starting to realize that in spite of so much scientific and technological advancement, which has certainly increased our ability to manipulate the natural world, ultimately we can't control nature, but rather we are controlled by nature to a great degree. Limited resources. Previously we may have thought that nature was an unlimited mine of resources for us to enjoy. Now we're realizing that's not the case. The world's natural resources are in fact limited, and the competition for those limited resources is often a cause of exploitation, conflict, and war. Finally, intergenerational tyranny. Humanity has recently become the only species in recorded history to destroy its own habitat, and this has highlighted the fact that the decisions we make now affect the peace and prosperity of future generations in major ways. In some academic circles, this phenomena of how the laws and policies of one generation can punish future generations is being referred to as intergenerational tyranny. And the results of this are quite startling. Global surveys are revealing that many young people today don't see much of a future for themselves or their children, or even humanity as a whole. So from a yogi's perspective, these new insights are certainly a step in the right direction. Although we could point out that they've been there in many traditional cultures for thousands of years, but nevertheless, they are certainly a step in the right direction. But from the perspective of yoga wisdom, for our ordinary well-being and our ultimate well-being and that of future generations, there is actually much more we need to understand about nature and our relationship with it. So on top of these new insights, let's look at how Bhakti Yoga wisdom suggests we further our understanding of nature and see how we could benefit from that. When you think of nature, what comes to mind? A vision of the great outdoors, collections of oceans, mountains, rivers, sunrises and sunsets, forests, animals and birds. particularly as a photographer, this is how I would see nature. Now, this vision of nature is certainly accurate, but also quite limited from a yogi's perspective. What could we be missing here? Well, let's take a look at how the ancient yoga wisdom suggests that we broaden our vision of nature. The first principle we may be somewhat familiar with, and that's the principle of nature as a mother. Now, how does that play out? As our human mother gives us our body in this life, Mother Nature gives us bodies life after life. This is the first understanding of what nature is, explained in Yoga Wisdom. And we also hear in this text from the Bhagavad Gita something that we may not be so familiar with, and that is that nature is not simply compared to a mother, but also to rope. Why rope? Because rope binds. So the connection between these two principles is that the various bodies that Mother Nature gives us from life to life are like ropes, in the sense that we are bound by them to act according to the particular body that Mother Nature puts us in. We can't act another way. For example, if we have a body of a pig, we are bound to act like that body. We have to act like a pig. And the same for any other body that nature may give us. Of course, we don't like to think of ourselves as bound. Think COVID lockdowns, effects of climate change. We rebel against that because by nature we want complete freedom. But let's be brave and look at a little at how Mother Nature might be binding us, might be restricting us. Along with the principle that Mother Nature is giving us bodies from life to life, implied there is that we're not the body. The body changes from life to life, but the conscious self within the body doesn't change. And we can see that phenomena even in this life. We've all had a baby's body, that body then changed into a child's body. Then that body changed into a teenager's body. Then that body changed into an adult body, unless we're still a teenager. And similarly, the adult body we have now will also change, but we are still the same person throughout all those changes of body. So in other words, we're not our body, but we all have one, composed of three qualities or ropes of nature. And these ropes tie us up and they pull on us in various ways. In other words, they make us act as the body that we happen to be in, even though we're not that body. As we hear in this text from the Bhagavad Gita, these ropes are of three general categories. They're called goodness, passion, and ignorance. So let's look in more detail at how they might be binding us. First of all, we look at the rope of goodness. The symptoms of the rope of goodness are, as you can see, knowledge and happiness. This means a very simple life dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. Not ordinary information or small talk, but big talk. Asking and answering the big questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What is the ultimate goal of life? How do we achieve it? As a main priority in life. And happiness comes from knowing what's going on. Comes from knowing the answers to those questions. So the connection between knowledge and happiness is that the more we cultivate genuine knowledge, the more happiness we experience. Our motto here, as the great philosopher Socrates said, is the unexamined life is not worth living. Now let's move on to something a little more common. The rope of passion. The symptoms of the rope of passion are desire and exertion. This means a life dominated by wants for the temporary, possessions, relationships, acquisitions, finances, achievements, recognition, and also the intense exertion to achieve those wants. This is the connection then between desire and exertion. That drive for the temporary leads to intense endeavour or exertion to try to realise those ambitions. And our motto here is, the world is my oyster. And finally, the rope of ignorance. The symptoms of the rope of ignorance are madness, inactivity, and sleep. This translates as a life of madness, which is not exclusively referring to insanity, but also as the attempt to escape or just break from reality. Often that's done through intoxication, entertainment. It also means dysfunction in the ordinary sense, anger, self-abuse, violence, exploitation, and also a total disinterest in any higher topics. What are we interested in exclusively if we're bound by the rope of ignorance? We're just interested in what pleases the body and the mind right now. So the connection between madness, inactivity, and sleep is that a life of madness leads to inactivity and sleep as a means to escape such a painful experience of life. And what's our motto? If we're bound by the rope of ignorance, ignorance is bliss. So what's my rope? How can we practically see these ropes binding us? It's quite simple. By just asking ourselves, am I mainly pulled on by the rope of knowledge and happiness? Or is my life more about desire and exertion? Or maybe it's madness, inactivity, and sleep. We generally have one rope that predominantly ties us up, and we can tell which that is by simply asking, which of these symptoms is my life dominated by? We can also switch ropes for periods of time. For example, we can act passionately, exert ourselves, work hard to achieve our temporary goals, and then take on some ignorance in the form of intoxication, inactivity, or sleep to try to recover from all that exertion. Or we may choose a goodness strategy to try to do that. Do some yoga asanas, eat healthy food, meditate, go for a nature walk, or read some wisdom text. In this way, yoga wisdom gives us a much deeper understanding of our relationship with nature and how we're bound by nature and how we're dependent on Mother Nature. Now, no one likes to be bound, as with the lockdown example, so after hearing this deeper understanding of nature, we may question whether we can become free from these ropes, and if so, how? How can we untie ourselves? Yoga wisdom explains that, although nature's ropes bind us, that doesn't mean we have no independence at all. Although bound, we can still choose to cultivate any of these qualities by practice. In other words, everything we do, everything we think, everything we say can be done either with the quality of goodness, passion, or ignorance. And we have that choice at every moment. So once we can see what's going on, how we're bound by these ropes of nature, we can, if we want to, begin to modify our lifestyle and cultivate the quality we're after. Which is the best to cultivate? If we're interested in freedom from nature's ropes, the best is goodness, because it opens the door to higher knowledge. And the more knowledge we have, the more free we become, and naturally, therefore, the happier we are as well, because our essential nature is complete freedom. It was the famous freedom fighter Nelson Mandela who said, "There's no such thing as partial freedom." And the yogi agrees. He or she knows that there is no real freedom or happiness as long as we're bound by these ropes of nature. So they actively cultivate a lifestyle of goodness, which then opens the door to complete freedom on the non-material platform. How can we go about this? The Bhagavad Gita compares the body to a city of 9 gates. In other words, there are 9 gates or holes in the body, and just as with an ordinary gate, these gates or holes let things in and let things out. So the Bhagavad Gita explains here that the manifestation of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. This means that when we learn what we should see and what we shouldn't see, what we should hear and what we shouldn't hear, what we should say, eat, and what we shouldn't, that practical lifestyle adjustment in all aspects of our life increases the quality of goodness. And the best place to start to do that is actually with the ear. By changing the quality of the sound we hear, we change the quality of the rope we're bound by. There's a Sanskrit mantra, Anavriti Shabdat, which means freedom through sound. If we can change the quality of the sound we hear from material to non-material, then the rope of goodness becomes prominent, and this opens the door to that which is beyond material nature. And that leads us to our conclusion. So far we've been expanding our understanding of nature in the ordinary or the material sense. But yoga wisdom has a lot more to offer us than even this expanded understanding. It also alerts us to the existence of the non-material nature. Now, that nature, which is beyond material nature, is a big topic. So for now, we'll just end our presentation with this hint about what lies beyond material nature from the prime yoga text, Bhagavad Gita. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So there you go. There is my short presentation on understanding nature. I hope you got something valuable out of this video, and really we're just skimming the surface here. If you'd like more information, more details, please see Bhagavad Gita as it is, and I'll leave a link in the description below for that book. And I'd also like to hear your comments. Maybe you can see from this presentation which rope binds you. So take care, and until the next video, Namaste.